Before we get started, just would like to
Oh my God.
pull this out, you know. For those who aren't watching,
Oh my God.
those that are just listening and can't actually see the N-Word podcast, what I'm holding is a championship belt, modeled after WCW's Big Gold, first brought out by Ric Flair when he won the championship. You're probably wondering, well, Kevin, why do you have a championship belt? I have a championship belt because last season, while we were filming the N-Word podcast, I happened to win my fantasy football league. That wasn't actually the first time. That was the second time, being back-to-back titles. So I just thought I'd share this with the viewers, the people, let them know that they're amongst a champion.
Uh-huh.
And also a back-to-back champion, Because it's one thing to win.
Sure.
It's another thing to do it back-to-back years.
Certainly.
So, in fact, we are going for a three-peat next fantasy football season.
Okay.
So I just wanted to hold this up for a while. Shout out Alex. I see you, bro.
Well, I'm a little speechless.
Nice.
I will just say I'm happy this brings you joy. And
joy it does bring me.
yeah.
For real.
That's good.
Feels great. It really does. Okay, I'll just put this away for now. Mm-hmm. Welcome to the second episode of the N-Word podcast.
You okay?
The realist, Kevin Bernat, the queen, Angela Peoples.
I think we're going with Empress energy right now. Empress. Yeah.
Nice. I'd be interested in how that falls in a hierarchy, because we know hierarchy is important.
Well, I say Empress energy. I kind of go back and forth between like High Priestess, Empress energy, and this is thinking specifically about the tarot deck. Empress energy is the 3 card, and so sometimes if I'm the number 3 on my line. Also, shout out to Deja Vu, the Delta Girls. So I feel like sometimes I kind of vibrate with the number 3 on that frequency. The Empress is the 3rd card in the tarot deck. It's also a card about like creation, life giving, creativity. And so, yeah, I feel like sometimes I'm more on the High Priestess energy, which is different. But right now I'm vibing as the Empress.
We love that.
Mm-hmm.
I was reflecting on what this moment in time is reminding me of.
Mm-hmm.
And an interesting moment in life was brought to my attention as I was thinking about this. And it was this moment in high school. I forget the exact details of the exchange, but it was myself and this white student. There were so many different racist white students that I could, I'm like, was it this one? Was it that one? Because there's literally
So many different racist white students?
Yes, that I went to high school with. That I went to high school with. So, in thinking about this story, I was like, which one was it? Like, there was this one, there was
Terrible.
that one. Yeah, and that's hilarious within itself. But I was reminded of this moment where the student basically said the N-word. Not the podcast.
Not the podcast.
And in this moment of shock, I'm like, oh snap! Like, what do we do?
What do we as a collective
Like,
do?
literally,
Yeah.
I'm like, my instant, immediate reaction was like, what do we do? And I'm like, we, in my brain, I'm like, we as in the black students. I'm like, what do we do? Like the black kids in the class. And like, in this moment, I like turn around to another black student, and I'm like, yo, like I'm like looking at him, like what are we about to, what are we about to do? And in my mind, I'm thinking that there are like only like so few options.
Sure.
And like one of them is that we're supposed to jump him.
Yes.
Like
instinctually. Is this an experience that you had before? This is like the first time you're like, what are we doing? Rapid response.
This is rapid response. What the culture and my life up until this point has taught me and told me. Like one of the three options is that we're supposed to jump him.
Yeah.
And I look towards the black student like, yo, like, and he just looks at me and just like,
no, I'm not jumping.
And in that moment, I was like,
oh no,
damn. Like, I was like heartbroken. I was just like, wow, like, so he just gets to say it, and he's like looking at all of us, and like we don't do nothing. That's what this current moment in life feels like.
You're looking around for the people who are gonna jump,
I'm
the
like,
billionaires and the.
Aren't we supposed to be jumping?
Yes, 100%.
The Elon Musks, the people that voted for Trump, the Donald Trump. Aren't we supposed to be like the public officials that are signing and pushing these whack ass laws?
Aren't we supposed to be fighting them?
Shouldn't we just beat their ass?
Yeah, that resonates.
And I'm turning around, looking left and right, and it's like,
yeah,
everybody's like,
not everybody, but
it feels like,
yeah, we have to find the people that are like.
And I'm thinking about how, you know, I can't remember the exact details of the Stonewall riot and you know, Marsha P. Johnson's story behind that, but one of the main stories is that like somebody basically just got up and just threw some shit, and then like all hell broke loose. And I'm like, I think that's part of what this moment might
need some more Marsha P. Johnson.
Is somebody to just throw some shit. And I'm wondering, it's interesting because what's popping up in my mind is the Bree Newsom Confederate flag pulling down moment. And my mind and spirit is like, was that moment a
moment
where somebody just said fuck it and just threw some shit and like all hell broke loose after that person did that thing? It'd be interesting to look up like what happened historically after Bree Newsom pulled down the Confederate flag.
Yeah, well, yes. I mean, first, I think, especially because it's Black History Month, we should give Marsha P. Johnson her flowers. Black trans woman who was living in New York and had a history of activism and community building, community organizing. And I am not going to get this history completely right, but there was the sort of Stonewall riots, as they're known, it came in the aftermath of police raiding a gay club where in the, I believe, 1970s in New York, where folks were, you know, being community, where sex workers had been, you know, sort of targeted by the police and the state at different moments. And the riot sort of, as they call it, erupted after Marsha P. threw that stone, that like a rock at the.
I think in my mind I'm remembering that, or I think I'm remembering that it was a shot glass, but they threw something.
Yeah, I think that also the really one of the meaningful things to remember is that, you know, especially that moment is linked to the start of sort of Pride, the Pride movement and LGBTQ, particularly gay and lesbian and trans folks taking up more space and like organizing, building more community, becoming more well known. And it's important that we acknowledge and name Marsha P. Johnson and like as a Black trans woman that was leading the effort, and Sylvia Rivera as a Latina trans woman. Like these are not the kind of idea kind of transition to being taken up more by white gay men often in terms of like the gay community, but these are the folks that really started it, as always. But to your point also about needing more shot glass throwers and the people that are fighting, first of all, that moment that you had in high school, I feel like it reminds me of moments that I had and like moments that are in our TV shows and our pop culture. Like so many shows have that, like we were just watching Bel-Air and this like, the issue with Carlton and the school and kicking out the Black teacher. Carlton, LOL.
You Carlton ass niggas.
But it makes me think about like that as a moment, those type of experiences as like a cultural truth that like these things happen, and like even when they try to like erase the history of discrimination in racism in our schools and so on, it's like we all have these experiences and we've watched like images or examples of these experiences throughout our culture, so it's kind of like it's already there. It's already infused in what we know to be true. One, because we have these experiences and they're documented throughout, lots of different, culture and pop cultural icons.
Literally could write a whole book about the racist shit I experienced in high school. But yeah, to the point of that moment, I'm like, it just feels like, these billionaires are just running the country and doing whatever the fuck they want. And, you have like a whole pool of voters who are having, I don't even know if voters' remorse is a thing, but
it's shocking. I feel like it has to be really shocking. I mean, maybe not really shocking, but it does. I can imagine it's like, wait, is this really what y'all are doing? Like those of us that did not vote for Trump because we kind of figured that this is where they were headed, are like, yeah, we thought this was what was going to happen, which is why we didn't vote for that dude. People that are like, oh, is he serious? Really doing this? Is like, I can imagine it's very disorienting. Like, damn,
it's mad.
Turns out
it's mad disorienting, and yeah, imagine the pool of voters who voted for this, and they're like,
terrible.
Oh wow, it's really us against the billionaires. And
I think also I am I continue to be hopeful for many things, but one of them is like, I'm not even sure if it's like class consciousness that is, I'm hoping that increases. I think there's a thing of like the existence and the reverence of billionaires, people, the mega uber rich, people like Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk. Like, I feel like we're at the cusp of really exposing how just false and faux and fake and like scam likely all of this shit is.
Yeah.
Because people are like, wait a minute, like, how are you, like, they're like the way that people are overreaching, especially Elon Musk, in terms of they're being so blatant with their, like, the way that they're trying to manipulate politics. It's getting to be like, now wait. I feel like the truth is that a lot of this stuff has been happening behind the scenes for a long time. Like, you don't get to be a billionaire without some type of government contracts.
Right.
And these billionaires got buku in government contracts. Like, they are billionaires because they're taking billions of dollars in government money, meaning taxpayer money. So it is not like, and I think that the more that, excuse me, the more that Elon Musk is like totally stepping into taking control of the government, people like Jeff Bezos showing how they control the media and Meta and so on and so forth. Like, people are like, wait, you are actually way more beholden to us than we even thought, beyond just us as consumers of your product.
Everybody wants to be a billionaire, yet don't realize what it means to be a billionaire or what it actually takes to be a billionaire.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, fuck a government contract. To be a billionaire, you literally have to, like, kill niggas. Like, literally,
definitely,
like,
yeah.
Literally, in order to be a billionaire, you have to exploit a population of people
to death.
To their death.
Yeah, I think that's 100% true.
And I feel like I think people kind of conflate the, you know, grab them by your bootstraps and do hard work and you'll just work hard and you'll make it to be a billionaire. And it's like, no, that's the dream that they sold you. And like, it's propaganda as fuck. But like, why do you think as a society there is such a like gravitational pull to being a billionaire, or like why do you think that like being a billionaire is goals?
I think it's because this idea, I think one of the reasons is this fixation on individuality, because you don't get to be like, this idea is like, I am one person that makes the right decisions, has the most innovative ideas. But that's because, again, we center the value of individuality versus the value of collectivism. Because the truth is, it's not, and we know this, those of us in the working caste or the lower caste, like, we know that actually success comes from collective action. We know that, like, it's one brilliant idea with another brilliant idea with a bunch of people that can execute on said brilliant idea that actually breeds success. And that's how things happen in these businesses in the real world. That's why diversity is necessary, so that we can have different views and perspectives that make things be successful versus just in one individual idea. But capitalism, I think, requires us to assume that us working so hard as our individual selves will at some point get us to a particular level, because capitalism needs us to work a lot. Like, it needs us to be focusing on working, producing, and so that it can continue to like be in its, you know, functional, dysfunctional state. But if we're actually thinking about the opportunity and the power of collective action, we might not actually be having to work so much or so hard.
I think, I feel like in asking myself, do I want to be a billionaire? I'm like, I don't even actually want. I feel like I want enough money, and I don't think having $1 billion is like sustainable for me. I also don't think I think that's way too much. I also am like, I don't want to be on the government's radar like that.
I mean, yeah.
Like, I feel like once you become a billionaire, you're like getting like emails and like niggas knocking on your door, like from the government, like, hey, just drop it in.
And honestly, that would be great if the government was actually tracking these billionaires. But when you get to be a billionaire, you have enough money to pay to be off the government's radar, unless you, like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or Zuckerberg or these, like, unless you actually want to be in relationship with the government, which most of them do because that's one of the ways that they make their money, you can pay to be off the government's radar. It's those, honestly, it's when you make like, you know, the high six figures that you're uncomfortably on the government's radar because they're like, you're still in the tax bracket where you have to pay a bunch of taxes, but you're not, like, you make enough money where you have to pay like you're still in a tax bracket where you have to pay high taxes, but you're not making enough money to pay us so that we leave you alone.
It's wild because we're talking, like, every time we mention like paying taxes, I'm like, but yet the like more money you have, it feels like the more money you have, the more your awareness on how to not pay taxes
100%
increases.
The more money you make, the less you contribute to the public coffers, if that makes sense. The public bank, the public good. Like, the more you make, the less of your percentage you give, which is absurd.
And I'm not the smartest motherfucker in the world, but I believe that's the point of taxes, which is to be able to, like, you know,
pay for the things that we all need.
Pay for society's shit to like sustain humanity, make things.
Yeah.
So it's a finessing of the game when you realize that these billionaires are actually not paying taxes because they're able to, I mean, shit, millionaires as well are not paying taxes because they're able to finesse their way from paying taxes. Whether it's crazy because
it is so crazy. It's laughable when you're like, wait, the more you make, the less the less of your percentage. Like, think about it not in dollar amounts. Think about it in the percentage of your income that you're contributing, or the percentage of your contribution relative to your income. Because when you think about it in that way, it's mind-boggling. It's just crazy.
I'm also laughing.
Crazy unfair.
I'm also laughing because there's like, I'm thinking about like someone like Rick Ross, who's like, all right, well, I'm just gonna buy farm animals to essentially be able to avoid paying taxes. And it's just like, why are they, like, in this system,
like, why would you do something so unnecessary instead of just paying taxes? But you don't need farm animals.
But to take a step back even more, it's like, in this entire system, why are there loopholes this
100%.
way? So that, like, why are there such loopholes in this system? Why are there such obvious and notable loopholes in the system that, like, can allow billionaires and millionaires to avoid paying taxes? It almost feels like America is set up to feed the wealth.
100%. Excuse me. But this is where the shift has to happen, right? Like, this is why we have to talk about the, you know, underlying truths in these narratives about what our values are as Americans, what it means to be an American, because, like, the truth is, only, like, I don't believe that the majority of people are making decisions every day based on how to get richer. I don't think that that's the case. I think that the majority of people, their values are safety, like peace, freedom to move and to be, freedom to care for their people. So there's something to be said about when you get to this point of wealth, then there's also this element of, like, influence that we're seeing right now with specifically Elon Musk, but I think it's starting to penetrate across all different levels. That's, like, really, really dangerous and disgusting. And if you are someone who has the decision-making kind of matrix that makes you a billionaire, then you're not making good decisions for the country. You're not someone that should be in space to decide what happens with our public coffers. You know why? Because you're only going to make it to go to yourself and the people that you are profiting from.
I really do feel like at some point in becoming a billionaire, you know, on that journey to become a billionaire, that like you realize that you have to exploit people.
Yeah.
You realize that like I have to give this person less so that I can sustain and obtain more. And if you're that type of person, then you should not be in this position to be serving the public, because you're actually designed and set up to screw us over. And I really feel like people need to realize that like we are in this like the people versus billionaire
100%. It is us versus them. You are not them. They are not you. They are not thinking about you. They are literally thinking about themselves. How do they keep this? I'm sorry to interrupt you. You were still talking. Because I just wanted to say, because AOC's been doing a really good job. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has been doing a really good job of making their like end game really clear. There's a big tax break for the wealthy that Trump enacted when he was first president that expires this year. And so they're doing all of this like chaos, rush, hustle. One, to like, and like cutting spending from things that we all need and that people around the world rely on. Like, they're doing all that cutting and trimming so they can try to figure out how to make the extension of these tax cuts, that like to try to pay for them. But according to the estimates, it's going to cost $4 trillion just to keep these tax cuts for the wealthy. So they're like, we'll cut aid to foreign countries. We'll cut our relationships to the World Health Organization. We'll end the Department of Education. Crazy. All of this stuff so that they can try to cover the cost of their extending their tax break, which is the only reason why the super wealthy became the uber wealthy in the last like 5 years. Their wealth has quadrupled because of these tax cuts, and they're trying to do it again, which is crazy to me. You already have $1 bajillion. Why do you want $1 bajillion times 2?
I keep thinking about all of the people that voted for this, and now they're like doing interviews on the news like, this is not what I voted for. And it's like, yes, you did, bro. Like,
you did.
Maybe,
what do we do with that? Oh my goodness!
Like, they're literally like teachers are literally like, I did not vote for this, and it's like,
and it sucks because it's also just like
motherfuckers getting deported. I did not vote for this.
Yeah,
like, I mean,
so what do we do with that?
Scam likely.
What do we do? Because it's like, you know, on the one hand, damn, y'all, like, we told you so. Like, you made a very bad choice. And now we are all suffering the consequences in like really devastating ways. And also, you know, in line with my, how do I make space in my own self to like expand on the we, or like, you know, evolve in this particular way. Like, I'm not even saying like we're going to need these people votes, but like, these are like, you know, humans that at some point are going to like be experiencing the same devastation that we are.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there's a big question, like as a strategist, as a storyteller, like how on the one hand are we like, you know, this is the find out of the fuck around, and like that is real, and like people need to experience that so that we are like aware of the consequences of these actions. at the same time, like, we need to be able to like bring folks together in a way that's like allows us to be more powerful than the billionaires that are completely trying to take even the last little droplets of something that we all have.
And so I feel like if in trying to figure out what we do, I feel like if the image of America, if the last two images of America was like, all right, the boxing match flyer poster of, you know, you got Kamala, you got Trump, and then we flip the page, and then now you have Trump and his billionaire friends are like, we won. And Trump is holding up his championship belt. I feel like the next page needs to. I feel like after that page, it's obviously, you know, people seeing that like, oh shit, what I voted for isn't actually happening, and now what's happening is this billionaire takeover. Mm-hmm. I feel like the next page needs to be a realization of the people being like, it is really us versus billionaires.
Yeah.
And people that are trying to obtain and sustain that type of wealth. Because if you're not able to recognize that view and that perspective, then you're still a puppet to the other side. Yeah. And that other side is screwing you over. And like, you will at some point be one of the many people that are realizing, oh shit, I did not actually vote for this. Yeah. And did not want to vote for this. Yeah. And now I'm getting fucked. Yeah. I think there needs to be that realization. The next page, I don't know what that looks like. Yeah. You know, in my mind, it's chaos. You know, we out here in the streets, eating the rich, and you know that. But
I do think, because I think what's also going to happen is we're going to see more of these Luigi Mangione type situations.
I'm so happy you brought that up.
And I think that, we're going to see more of that. And then what we need is to be able to be like, I mean, I'm not like, what we need to be able to say is like, yes, this is why it's us versus them. We need to be prepared to be like, this is us. I'm not saying all of us need to, the us best strategy is murder or anything like that at all. But I am saying that I think there's going to be more extreme cases, and what's needed is a strategy and a story that's like, how are we absorbing those moments to not lead to more violence and chaos, but like more strategic action and shifts in the balance of power. I'm
happy you brought up Luigi because
it sounds like you said Luigi, not Luigi, which I like Luigi also.
I would debate that our viewers think you said the same
thing. Yeah, no, totally.
But
Luigi versus Luigi. Sorry, go ahead.
As we continue, I am happy you brought up my boy, the Pew Pew, the big B take it downer,
alleged,
and R.I.P. someone who was lost, you know, at the hands of gun violence. Sure, you know, despite whoever's side you're on, honestly.
Sure. That's fair.
Death sucks and losing family sucks.
Gun violence sucks.
However, I do think that moment is actually what we were talking about. Is comparable
to like the Bree Newsom thing.
The Bree Newsom, like someone, and the Stonewall thing, which is like someone basically being like, yo, fuck this. I'm taking shit to my own hands. Yes. And I'm about to pew this billionaire.
Taking the actions in your own hands.
Taking actions in my own hands, so fuck this. And I will say that we should be prepared for him to talk a lot of shit in court. And as he talks a lot of shit in court, and as we are acknowledging this moment, we as strategists should be preparing for the type of shit talking that he will say in court, because it's going to be nationally broadcasted, I assume. And it's going to be put out there for the world, I assume. And I think it would be smart to use that as organizing moment to get people to realize that it is us versus these billionaires.
100%.
And I don't know when the fuck that court case is happening.
I don't. I feel like that's a thing to look up, because I'm sure updates will be happening.
Yes. I also feel like in this reality of recognizing that like it's us versus the billionaires, you know, there needs to be more clarity around like this like class versus race conversation. One thing I keep thinking about, well, I'm thinking about this because of a conversation that was shared by Christina. Word. And what's Christina's podcast?
The podcast is Uncultured, Uncultured, something like that.
Yes.
New podcast.
Pretty cool content creators. But I saw a clip from that podcast, and they were talking about this class versus race thing, and it made me really think about something that I have always believed in this journey of like, you know, awareness of like white supremacy and just awareness of all of the like isms, if you will. Just having this acknowledgement and this awareness that like I'm black before you have any awareness of like
anything else,
any other status, whether it's wealth. Well, just speaking about wealth, like I'm black before you see my status in wealth. So that is going to inevitably impact how you treat me before you even have any awareness of my wealth and my class status. And as I say this, I'm thinking about, you know, this incident that happened with Tyreek Hill and the Miami Dolphins.
100%.
Where, you know, police officers that are literally on a daily, like, securing the Dolphin Arena property, like, they see him speeding through and they're, like, just yanking him out of his car and treating him like he ain't shit. In my opinion, they're like,
oof, child.
Who gives a fuck about your status?
Yeah.
You know, you're
in fact, you could argue that they used his wealth against him to be like, who do you think you are, rich boy with your little car?
Word.
We're going to pull you over, show you who's boss.
And even as you say that, I would say that before they get to rich boy, they're like, you black rich boy.
Right.
Let me remind you who is actually in power in this moment. And even in that example, not that specific example around Tyreek Hill, but this example around like, I'm black before you're aware of my class status. I'm a black man. And as a black man looking at you, a black woman, like, I'm interested in whether or not, do I notice that you're black first or a woman first, or is there just an immediate absorption of just one? And
it's the one.
Word. I think it is the absorption of the one. You're this black woman, and I'm going to treat you as such before I acknowledge any status that you have. Yeah,
well, it's like I think the thing is that a black woman as an identity is a specific identity and experience. It's like, it's not woman or black, it's black woman. And shout out to the black women. I think, you're never, ever going to catch me talking about or advocating for class solidarity or class consciousness that is not deeply rooted in awareness of how race impacts that. There are countless examples across history of how Black people and people of color and white people were fighting for the same thing. And then that thing got done for the white people and not for the Black people or the people of color. Or it got done in like a disparate way, in a way that like did not benefit, that made it so the non-white people didn't benefit in the same way as the white people. And I'm like, miss me with it. Every time, every single time. And I think Christina said on the podcast that it was Christina or maybe Christian, but they basically made the point that this country literally had racial caste at its founding. Any attempt to take that out is like you're taking out the DNA.
Right.
You know, you're taking out, it is literally the fabric of.
Right.
It was in the laws. It wasn't just like an assumed, like right now, a lot of the racial dynamics seem to be cultural and social, not in the law. You know what I'm saying? Even though if you look in the law, that's actually what critical race theory is like, how is racism still embedded in the laws? Even though it doesn't say Blacks not allowed, right? Like that's what CRT basically, that's the kind of theory of it without, it's not all the other stuff that they're saying. But at any rate, it feels like it's just the vibes right now. Like, oh, racism is just sort of a cultural thing. But when the country was started, it was literally written into the paper. It was in the prescription. So you cannot talk about economic inequality without racial economic inequality. And also you can't address inequality, economic inequality, simply by adjusting racism. Like you can't adjust racial inequality and think that it will address the economic inequality. It is literally both and. It was written into the founding documents. So I think like I do understand the instinct, especially among like, you know, people on the left. I'm using quotations here because I think that's a very like nebulous term that gets thrown around a lot. But I understand the instinct of some people to be like, but if we focus too much on race, that's how it's going to divide us. But that only is true if you put the experience of white people at the center.
Yes.
That's only true if you make white people the like thing that is the what matters most. Then it's like, oh, well, it's divisive. Not really. No. It
might be a momentary, it might be a moment where white people get divided in the subject of the conversation because we have to be aware of the damages that white people have historically caused. So yes, that is a division, but that's only a moment of division that we have to acknowledge in order to acknowledge the whole perspective of how we actually got here and what the fuck are we talking about right now.
That's right.
But instead, because, you know, and back to what we were talking about last episode around like the Joe Budden podcast and people being like, and Dr. Umar making these, you know, solid points on white supremacy. There's this instinct to protect whiteness.
100%.
And like we run to it. We're designed to run to it at every opportunity. And like, I think that's part of the conversation you're saying, which is like, no, fuck this idea of us being divisive or dividing each other. Like, we actually need to acknowledge the various recipes that have brought us to this current dish in life.
And just because it's divisive doesn't mean that it's not true.
Right.
Just because it hurts, just because it's hard to hear, doesn't mean that it's not true. Right. That's what you learn in therapy, right? We all, this country needs some therapy, right? Like
this country needs some therapy.
Just because it's hard to hear doesn't mean that it's not true. And just because it's hard to hear doesn't mean that it's gonna be hard to hear forever.
Right.
Doesn't just because it hurts to hear it doesn't mean that you have to stay hurt. And not acknowledging something. Or again, these are the basics of therapy. Okay,
The basics.
not acknowledging something only allows it to get more powerful. Only allows it to get more toxic. Only allows it to make it more harmful for you. So it might hurt in the moment to be like, damn, my ancestors did vote to make these really terrible decisions. My ancestors did go to the lynch mob and take home somebody's fucking finger.
Literally.
Somebody's grandpa's, great-great-grandpa's finger. That
Pop.
is a terrible, gut-wrenching,
Literally.
very painful thing to realize and say. But now that I say it, now that I acknowledge it, I can let it go. And we can release it as a collective and maybe move forward and get these fucking billionaires out of here.
Two things. In that moment, what's that? What's it called? What's that that show? Something Watchers. Watchmen.
Okay, with Regina King.
Potentially.
Okay,
I think so.
All right.
It's reminding me of the moment where I'm messing up the characters.
Okay.
But I just want to say
We don't remember much.
no. I just have this desire to say Pawpaw. Like they went up into Pawpaw's cabinet, and basically you see the KKK uniform.
Yes.
I feel like that's the type of shit we need. We
to
need
happen.
America to
just
go through right now.
Open up the cabinet.
Open up Pawpaw's cabinet.
You'll see it. And just take it out.
Embrace the racism, the racist white supremacist history, and let's just take it out.
So we can move
So
on.
we can fucking move forward, please.
And get the billionaires.
Pawpaw was a racist, and his Pawpaw was also a racist. And that's
That was
just
terrible.
how, that's the reality. The other thing I wanted to say
Yes.
is that that should be our next episode. Our next episode is America's Therapy.
Oh, child, that's a 5-part.
And you should come in with let's say like 3 or 5 things that you want to say about America's therapy session.
Okay.
And then I'll come in with 3 or 5 things about America's therapy session.
Okay, sounds fun.
All right.
Listeners, if you have things that you want to be the focus of America's next therapy session, send it in. Let us know. We can add it to the list.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, and those in between, and everyone else.
And outside.
Yeah. In and out. In between, amongst, around, the spirits that are with us. All of y'all. Everybody.
Y'all means all.
Y'all means all. Next episode.
Yeah.
Let us know. Tag us. Send us emails. Send us comments. What you think America's therapy session needs to look like. Send us your ingredients of America's therapy session.
I dig it.
I think that looks great. I think that's going to be awesome. And yeah, I think that's a great way to end the show.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to
Love
the
you.
N-Word
Take care of
Podcast. Episode 2, Season 2. Peace.